Hello, let's talk about sequences and series today. A sequence is like a chain of numbers or a bunch of numbers that you would look for a pattern. So let's say you were counting by threes. You would count 2, 5, 8, 11, dot, 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 right? So you would use a sequence when you would want to know, like, if I'm going to add $5 to my piggy bank every day or every week, let's say every week, how much would I have after 12 weeks? So we're going to go look at some things like that. So a sequence is a sequence of numbers. It usually involves addition, subtraction, multiplication, or a combination of those. So there's two kinds. There's the arithmetic where you're adding. I use the same letters there to remember. And then there's the geometric kind, which we'll talk about tomorrow, where you're going to multiply. All right, so let's talk about some, well, actually, we are going to talk about geometric today. All right, so find the common difference or ratio. So first we're going to decide if they're arithmetic or geometric. So remember, arithmetic, if they're adding or subtracting, basically adding or adding a negative. And geometric, they're multiplying or dividing, or really we say they're multiplying by a fraction. So looking at this first one, so I'm going to look at the common difference between the two to see. So I'm always going to assume first that it's arithmetic. So I'm just going to start adding things, okay? So this is a plus 6. Oh, to get from negative 8 to negative 2 is I'm adding 6. To get from negative 2 to 4 is a 6 and a 6. So because they have the same exact difference, it is an arithmetic sequence, and the difference is 6. All right, let's look down here at the next one. Now again, assume it's arithmetic. So to go from 1 to negative 3, I'm subtracting 4. But to go from negative 3 to 9, I'm adding 12. That is not an arithmetic sequence. So let's see if we can multiply or divide. So I like to go backwards with these. I go negative 27 divided by 9. What do I get? Well, that's negative 3. Then I do 9 divided by negative 3. Oh, that gives me negative 3. And then I do negative 3 divided by 1, and that's also negative 3. So you're basically multiplying each number by negative 3 to get to the next number. So this is a geometric, and we don't say difference between them. We call that a ratio, so we're going to call it R, and that is negative 3. All right, let's play around with some of these. We want to find, we're looking at an arithmetic sequence. We want to find the 12th term of this. Now this one could be kind of hard. You got to first figure out what are you adding each time. We're adding 4, it looks like. So you'd have to add 4, 12 to get to the 12th term. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. We'd finally get there. But there's a better way. There's a formula that you can use. So copy this formula down, hit pause. All right, so we're going to go play around with one of these. So find the 25th term of this. So here's what we're going to do. We've got to label our a sub 1. All right, a sub 1 means, let's go back to our formula. A sub 1 is your first term. All right, this is your whatever term you're looking for. So in that case, it's going to be the 25th. N is the number of terms, and D is your difference. Okay, so just so you know what these are. All right, so we're going to say a sub 1. What's our first term? Our first term is negative 21. N is the number of terms we're looking for, so N is 25. All right, and then our difference. What is our common difference between the two? Well, let's go figure it out. We've got negative 21 to negative 18. Looks like we're adding 3. All right, negative 18 to negative 15, still adding 3. So you got to make sure that it actually is an arithmetic sequence, and it is. All right, so let's go plug this into our formula. So really, okay, hold on, let me put in, I'm adding 3. I forgot to add that in. All right, so let's go plug this into our formula. So a sub 25, because we're looking for the 25th term. This does not mean multiply by 25. It just means we're looking for the 25th term. Our first term is negative 21. And we're going to add, we're doing 25 minus 1 from our formula times our difference, okay? Because remember, the formula was a sub n equals a sub 1 plus n minus 1 times d. All right, so basically we only need one less than the one we're looking for because we already have the first term. So you already counted in the first term. All right, now you're just going to calculate this out, okay? And you're going to get negative 21 plus 24 times 3. Well, what is 24 times 3? I think it's 72. So negative 21 plus 72 should give us 51. And that's our 25th term when we go and work that out, okay? All right, so now let's go and try another one. This one, I think we are going to subtract 12. It looks like. I'm going to check, though. All right, that's subtracting 12. That looks like we're subtracting 12. Okay, so our difference is going to be 12. We want to find, again, the direction said, find the 25th term. So I'm going to give you a minute to set that up, and then you go and let's check it. Okay, so here's what we got. We got a sub 25 is equal to 213 plus 25 minus 1, and our difference is negative 12. Go ahead and calculate that out. I got to get my calculator. All right, once I worked it all out, I got negative 75 as my 25th term. All right, let's go look at, we'll look at that later, geometric sequences. This is when you multiply by something. So let's say you start with the number 2 and you go to 6 and then you go to 18, la, 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 right? What are you multiplying by to get to the next term? Well, this one looks like we're multiplying by 3. So let's play around with that. So you want to find the 7th and 14th terms of this. That would be hard to do. Actually, the 7th wouldn't be that hard. You could just keep multiplying. It looks like this one's being multiplied by 4 until you get to the 7th term. But the 14th is going to be kind of hard. So we're going to go and use this formula. Go ahead and copy that one down. All right, and let's go back to this problem. So we want to find the 7th term and the 14th term. So let's go and label all of our things. So remember the formula said a sub n is equal to a sub 1 times r to the n minus 1. And so everything means the same as it did before. All right, a sub 1 is your first term, so that's 3. We're looking for, in this case, the 7th term first, and then we're going to figure out our ratio. So r is our ratio. It looks like our ratio is 4. So let's plug that in. We've got a sub 7 is equal to 3 times, all right, that's times our ratio, which is 4, to the n minus 1. So that's 25 minus 1. All right, the more you can write down and deal with and not put in your calculator, the better off it's going to be because you're not going to have so much to put in your calculator. So let's go and figure that out. I'm going to pause this and hit and use my calculator for a second. Okay, so on my calculator, I got 8.444, and then it has at the very end E14. So what does that mean? That basically means you're going to move, this means times 10 to the 14th power. So you're going to move your, hold on, I did that wrong. All right, so you're just going to go and let's put in 844. All right, and then you're going to put a bunch of zeros at the end. All right, this is probably not a good example. All right, so you're going to move your decimal place over 14 places. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. There you go. There's the number you're going to get. That's a big number. Let's play with something a little more realistic. All right, there's your formula again. All right, suppose you want to reduce a copy of a photograph. The actual length of the photograph is 10 inches. Smallest size of the copy it can make is 64% of the original. Find the length of the photograph after 4 reductions. Okay, so the actual first one, now let's think about this. Your first one is going to be 10 inches long, okay? You have 4 more reductions, so you're actually looking for the 5th one, okay? So let's go figure this out. A sub 1 is 10. Our ratio is going to be 64%. So we need to write that in a decimal, 0.64. All right, and we are looking for the 5th copy because the original one, right? Original is 10. You've got 4 more. 1, 2, 3, 4. So you're looking for the 5th. Now, you could go and multiply each number by 0.64, but let's go ahead and put this in. We've got a sub 5 is equal to a sub 1, which is 10, times 0.64 raised to the n minus 1, which is 5 minus 1. Plug that in your calculator and let's see what we get. Okay, so I got something a little bit more realistic that we can look at. So our 5th copy is going to be 1.677, and I'm going to guess inches because I think the original one started out with inches. All right, so that's using those formulas to find those ratios. All right, so we're not going to have time to go through all of this because the bell is going to ring and I need to get started. So I'm going to give you these formulas right here. Make sure you copy these down. And then I am going to post on the board an IXL assignment that I want you to do today. So look up at the board so that you can see which IXL is due today and you can work on that. All right, have a great day.